And get started. If the Sunday line can quiet down. I have the privilege of introducing our next four speakers. Usually people get to introduce one, but I need to get to introduce four. The thing is that they all need no introduction since we've known them for quite a long time now. They are four of our own 2013 graduates. They will all be talking to us about the theme, courage and leadership, starting with own Phil Knoll.
Thank you. So, I was excited to be able to do this. A little nervous because I'm hoping the technology holds up for me on this. And then I found out, looking at the agenda, that I was following breaks. And following a break's really hard, right? Because everybody's tired, and I know there's going to be food. And then I found out I followed Sundays, and it's like, really? That's the hardest. I mean, it's hard enough to follow food, but then I had to follow, like, ice cream. So I think that's tough. So what I wanted to talk about was it made an impact on me because of being a part of the class of 2013, but I think that it'll impact everybody because at some point everyone in this room is going to graduate from a leadership development program. And so at some point, hopefully the thoughts that I'm going to bring up and hopefully share with you now, they will resonate with you and you can get a jump on what it is that I wanted to share with you. So the question that I kind of wanted to pose is, so what's next in your career? For the class of 2013, we're graduating in about 6 weeks or so. LEAP will no longer be a part of our work week, and we need to figure out what's going to be next. We need to figure out what we're going to do. For the rest of the people in the room, that may be a year and 6 weeks or potentially 2 years and 6 weeks, and it's always a good time to start thinking about what are you going to do with your life after LEAP. And what are the next job assignments? What do you want to do next? So then I started thinking about, well, how do I make that decision? How do I know when the right decision comes along and what I want to do with that? And it reminded me of something that I had seen in grad school. And the answer kind of came to me that in order to make those decisions, you have to focus on what matters most. And you can't be distracted from what's happening around you. So with that, I'm hoping to share my first video, and I'm crossing my fingers that YouTube will come through. So if anybody has seen this, please don't say anything. But if you haven't, I want you to watch this video and listen real closely, and we'll talk about it afterwards. Go ahead.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Did anybody see it? So watch. Go ahead and pause it. So the screen's a little bit dark. Once they showed it again, who saw the moonwalking bear? Who saw it the first time? We got just a couple people. Had you seen the video before? Okay. So the idea behind it is it's easy to miss something that you're not looking for. Or it's easy to be distracted from outside inputs and from things that are happening that kind of cloud our judgment and cloud what we're focused on. So when we're looking at the next phase in our career, we should be asking ourselves some specific questions. We should be really thinking about what it is that we want out of our career and what it's going to get us and what that end result is going to be. Now, it looks like the technology is holding true, so I want to play another quick video. And this is where I'm thinking outside the shoe. I'm so glad that Jessica said that earlier today. I don't think there's ever been a LEAP speaker that has brought rock and roll into a conversation or into a presentation. I'm a big fan of rock and roll. I've been a fan of music my whole life. And I just recently watched a documentary. Who is familiar with Dave Grohl? Does anybody who know who Dave Grohl is by show of hands? Okay, who has heard of the band Nirvana? Okay, good. Who has heard of the band the Foo Fighters? Okay, Dave Grohl is a common theme between those two bands. He was the drummer of Nirvana, and he is the front man, generally the major songwriter of the Foo Fighters. Now, the video I'm going to show is 2 minutes, so bear with me for 2 minutes. And he talks about what happens within about 6 months after Nirvana broke up. The lead singer died. Dave was living in Seattle. He wasn't from Seattle. And he had a really, really big choice to make on what he was going to do with his career. And he talks about this, and I'm going to tie it back a little bit and then connect the dots and hopefully give you a tool so that as you're faced with decisions, maybe, I don't know if it's going to be as big as Dave's, but when you're faced with these decisions, you'll know how to approach them. So go ahead and hit play on this video.
At some point, I was finally motivated. I'm going to get myself out of this funk I've been in for the last 8 months or whatever it was, you know. I decided that I was going to take my favorite songs that I'd written over the last 4 or 5 years that no one had heard, and I was going to record them at a 24-track studio down the street from my house. And it was really exciting because I was doing it totally by myself. I didn't know why I was doing it. I just wanted to do something, you know. So I booked a week at the studio, and at the end of the week, I had a cassette, and it sounded good. And I started thinking, I won't put my name on it. People will imagine it's just a band, and they won't know that it's the guy from Nirvana. In the middle of that session, I get a call at the studio that Tom Petty wants me to come play drums for him on Saturday Night Live. I just thought, oh my God, he's a hero of mine. And I had the opportunity to join the band if I wanted to join the band. I really had to kind of choose. Or was I going to play drums with Tom Petty? Or was I going to start over from scratch and be the lead singer and guitar player of a band, do something I'd never done before that I was terrified doing? Believe me, man, it was not easy to tell Tom Petty that I wasn't going to be his drummer. It was not an easy decision to make. I could still see my hand just putting the phone down and thinking, okay, see what happens.
Perfect. So, he had the opportunity to drum for a major rock and roll icon, one of his idols, and he says that he remembers hanging up the phone and saying, okay, we'll see what happens. So, to this date, what has happened? The Foo Fighters have recorded 7 albums, have sold over 20 million records worldwide, and have won 11 Grammys, making them the 4th all-time for bands. Only 3 bands in rock and roll history have won more Grammy Awards than the Foo Fighters have. And he hung up the phone and took a chance on himself and on a dream. So, looking at focusing on the right things and seeing an example of somebody else doing something that was totally a risk and something that he had no idea. It's easy to look back on it now and say, well, of course he made the right decision. He had a cassette tape. He had 100 of them. He didn't even know what he was going to do with it yet. And it turned into something that was fantastic. So, as I was processing all of this and thinking about what it was that I wanted to share, I was reminded, I remembered one of the most impactful meetings that I've been in as a LEAP participant. And it was a meeting that was a teleconference that was hosted by Mark Burgess. And he gave a presentation on strategy. And he ended up saying that people want to figure out, let's get our strategy in place and then let's execute it. And he taught that the strategy was actually number 4. It wasn't the first thing you did, it was the 4th thing you did. The first thing you have to do is figure out the trends, what's going on around you. And then look at those trends and say, okay, so based off of what I'm seeing and based off of what I know, what do I want? What's my vision for the future? What do I want to have happen when this is all said and done? From that vision, you can create objectives, and then those objectives go into a strategy, and then the strategy goes into the tactics. And I thought about that. I'm like, okay, so how does that work? And he used a World War II analogy, and I'm terrible at World War II history, and it didn't make much sense to me. And then I signed up for a half marathon next summer. And I thought, okay, I can use this. The trends right now is I can't run a mile to save my life right now. My vision is to be fit, to be in good shape, and to be a good runner. So my objective was to run the Rock and Roll Half Marathon in Seattle on June 21st of 2014. Now my strategy for meeting that objective is I joined the Boeing gym. I'm working with my sister, who's a marathon runner. I've told now a room full of people that I'm going to do this, so I can't get out of it. And I threw down the $103 to register. That was kind of my strategy, I guess. I made sure that I committed. Now my tactics are, what am I going to do each week to get to the point where I can run 13.1 miles and do it in 7 months? That made sense to me. I'm like, okay, I get this now. I figure out how it works. So my challenge is to look at this with our careers. This is something we can use in any aspect of our life. And Mark Burgess, he talked about it on an enterprise level. Huge companies can do this and look at the trends of their industry and look at the vision. We have the Vision 2016 in the Boeing company and what are our objectives. But I can look at this and say, okay, I think everybody knows that I have 3 kids and being a dad's pretty important to me. What are the trends of me being a dad? I probably lose my patience a little more than I ought to. I don't spend quite as much time with my kids. Then I can go through and do all these things. For your career, and this is what I wanted to bring it back home. What are the trends right now in your career? If you start taking, your own personal inventory, what are the trends? What are you good at? What are you not so good at? What excites you about your job? What is something about your job that if you could never do it again, it would be too soon? Take all those and say, okay, what's my vision for my career? How do I want to end my career? Do you end up being a C-level executive at the Boeing company? Maybe. Do you end up having the work-life balance that allows you to be the person you want to be outside of your 40-plus hours at work? What's your vision? Everybody should think about it and say, okay, what do I want my life to be like and how does it work in there? Fit in there. So then, once you have that, then you can create your objective. My objective is to get a job in X because that's going to meet the vision that I have. And maybe my objectives are 3 steps ahead. I want to do job A, then job B, then job C. But you can create objectives on how you're going to get there. And then this is where LEAP comes in. With a lot of these is you could say, okay, I want to get a job in BCA commercial sales. Hey, Aradna, I know you were there. Is Aradna in the room right now? She was somewhere. There you are. Hi, there you are. I had a conversation with her about 6-8 months ago because I was interested in BCA commercial sales. And she was like, I used to do HR for them. Let's sit down and talk. So one of your strategies is leverage your LEAP network. Some of your other strategies could include working with your mentor, working with anything. I mean, you can kind of develop your own strategies. And then your tactics are, when are you going to set aside time each day or each week or each month or whatever your operating rhythm is to hit your strategic goals to get that objective of that next job. I've done this. I created something that my wife had seen. I think she saw it on Oprah. And it was basically called a vision board. And the idea was that you take things that you want, goals that you want in your life, and you get a picture and you stick them on a board. And you'll look at that often, and that drives you, and it encourages you to be better and to be fulfilled. And it encourages you to think about your dreams. So I did a virtual one. I got a OneNote page, and I threw on a bunch of pictures of clip art that I created that I got from all around the internet. And then with each one of those, I looked at it and said, okay, that picture of my guitar. The trend is I play the same stupid songs on my guitar over and over again. I'm not learning anything new. My vision is to be a good guitar player, a really good guitar player. So my objective is to learn 4 songs this year that I couldn't have played. And my strategies are I'm going to go online and look at some tutorials. I'm going to do these. And my tactics are once a week I'm going to pick up the guitar and work on those 4 songs. If you want to do that with a job, you can use this. If you want to improve a talent, you can use this. If you want to be a better spouse or a better parent or a better person, you can take these ideas and use them on a micro level to improve who you are. I think the best gift that LEAP has given each one of us is not that we become better Boeing employees. We all have, and that is definitely an important and noble goal, and that's what Boeing wants to hear. But it's my opinion that LEAP makes us better people. That we can use the things like this every day to not necessarily just be better employees and then chuck that at the door as we take off our name badge and hang it on the key rack. That we can actually use these things to become better people. So, trends, vision, objective, strategy, and tactics. If you do this with your career, you'll be able to figure out what you want and what your next step is. And when Tom Petty calls you, you can say, actually, nope, I'm going to try and go this way because it doesn't fit my objectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil. And for most people do know this about Phil, but Phil halfway through his LEAP career he changed business units to BCA, and he made the conscious decision that he wanted to stick it out in LEAP because he thought it would be best for his professional and personal career, and we're glad he stuck through with it and is graduating later this week. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.